Hey guys, Moose here. We're back with some more Stonehearth in our Rayya's Children playthrough. I may be a little bit off today. I'm dealing with, I don't really want to get into details, but profound idiocy at work, and it's stressing me right the fuck out. So I'm a little not great right now, but should be fine to record. I'll try not to let it affect me, but I'm pretty much... I spent most of today being livid, so hopefully that'll resolve itself tomorrow, but let's just say I'd be surprised if it did. But maybe that's life being employed. I sure hope it isn't, and that's sure gonna push me further towards wanting to be self-employed and not really dealing with other people very much, which is tough because I also would like to be wealthy, and I think being self-employed and wealthy are normally mutually exclusive, but, you know, we'll see what I can do. I know that's not the case in some situations, but a lot of the time it is, unfortunately, and I think in the context of YouTube and Twitch, it's probably true. So, oh well, we'll see what happens. I did change some of the video settings that should improve the video quality of my... or the graphical quality of my videos. I'm hoping that that's the case. I have difficulty checking because I have trouble, for some reason when I open them locally, it doesn't necessarily look the way I expect it to on YouTube, or how it actually winds up looking on YouTube, and I'm not really sure what the deal is, but I think it'll be good. I think this will look better, so I'm hoping... This really doesn't have anything to do with Stonehearth. Stonehearth was kind of okay, but I think it might have been necessary for Life is Feudal Forest Village, which has been having a lot of trouble lately when I would scroll like this, go side to side or something. And I'm hoping that it will improve Stonehearth as well, but I haven't really gotten any complaints with Stonehearth. Life is Feudal definitely is having issues. Overwatch definitely had issues, so I'm hoping this is better, but I probably won't know for a little bit, so that's kind of a problem I have, is I'm not going to be very agile in adapting to what people say. Well, not what people say. I usually don't get a like the Life is Feudal one, I got a comment, I think yesterday on the first episode, which I recorded like almost a month ago, I think. So it's difficult to react to that, I guess. We have a lot of this. Do we want to do a second blacksmith? Is that... I don't think there's much of a point to doing that. Yeah, we'll just leave it alone for now. 4 gold, and then I guess just queue up another 50 bronze. Bronze is good for money, so... Great! Well, at least they don't have as many doors that they can break down now, so that's a plus. See if our military responds to orders in this version. Yep, they do. Alright. In our Ascendancy playthrough, they pretty much just ignore everything I say, which is loads of fun. You know, maybe we needed to move this. Why don't we move it? Just put it like right here. Yeah, it's fine. It's good enough. I'm not worried about it. Okay. Do I have bronze to sell? I think I do. Oh yeah. Sell as much as we can. Got rid of about 100, that's good. Good deal. they're taking like 20 doors to come replace this one. They're having some difficulty figuring out what they ought to be doing here. That's kind of amusing. I could use amusing right now. Help deal with the stress of stupid. Yeah, I talked about this in I think my last Ascendancy video. I'd really just rather be alone, or work alone. I think I could be pretty productive that way, but easier said than done. One day. Develop games. Right now, you know what, the thing I really need to do is I'm going to be pissed off about it and talk about it. What I really need to do is use it as motivation to work harder elsewhere. And, you know, develop that game that I've been talking about and get it out. And I think I can, but there's some aspects of it that I'm a little uncertain about, and I gotta make sure I exit, because it's one thing to pump out a game. I think it's not that hard to pump out a game. You can nail the mechanics down mostly and get that done. The really difficult part, I think, about making a game is getting the polish there and getting the little details right, because the details usually take a great deal of work. And it can be difficult to make sure that you have everything right and under control so that you can put out a game that doesn't just, like, play well. I think you can relatively easily put out a game that's mildly entertaining and you could sell it for, like, between $2 and $5. That's not that hard. And those generally I don't think sell that well, because that's oversaturated on Steam. But, like, it's a difference between, if you look at a game like Darkest Dungeon, kind of the difference between what Darkest Dungeon was, which was a highly polished, extremely tight gaming experience, which was fantastic, absolutely amazing game, one of my favorites of last year. Even though I didn't really play that much of it, I have profound respect for it. A difference between that and what that game would have been if the voice acting wasn't there, if the narration wasn't there, if the writing wasn't there, if the balance wasn't there. You know, if you just start chipping away the little things that took more effort than the simple stuff, or sorry, more effort than the basics, if you start taking those away and you look at what kind of game would be left if you started stripping these little details from a game like Darkest Dungeon, I think that's the difference between an okay game that's maybe, I guess if it was a movie you'd call it a cult hit, you know, where there's a small loyal group of players who recognize how good it is and enjoy it, and something like Darkest Dungeon, where it's like, I know there's some people who they took issue with, like, the corpse mechanics and stuff, but I think overall that game is very, very well respected, and deservedly so. So the difference between a cult classic or cult hit and what Darkest Dungeon is, I think, is stuff like the narration, is stuff like the ambiance, the art, the music, the things that aren't necessarily direct gameplay and mechanics, which are the things that take more effort and work, and, you know, getting the animation right, making sure that that's handled correctly in the coding and everything. They're the things that, like, it's not straight math. Like Darkest Dungeon especially, you look at the mechanics, it's math basically. It's a straight RPG with math, probabilities, and numbers. That's not that hard, especially to code. Computers live and breathe math. But to take that and kind of wrap it in the supremely good setting and nailing every other factor, including how those factors work within the code, I think is a much more impressive feat. So that's kind of my fear with making a game, is making sure I hit that, because doing that is going to take, like, I could, you know, I'm not saying this is like, oh, I'm so great at programming. No, I'm really not that good. I have a lot of learning and work to do, but I think that oh, we got some. Food is finally getting, okay, we're making progress here. Glad I harvested those prickly pears. So, but I think banging out, like, the mechanics of a game is not that hard. And that's kind of idea guy shit. Fine-tuning the balance, I think, is hard, but that's as far as it goes for that kind of mechanic. For the mechanics, I mean. The other stuff is the stuff that's tedious, that takes a long time. You know, going through 20 different rough drafts of the writing and making sure you've got the right story, and making sure that the story matches with the art, matches with the music, and making it cohesive, and getting good quality stuff for all of that, and not settling for the cheap option that, you know, yeah, it gets it done quicker, but it also guarantees that you're probably not going to be one of those kinds of hits like Darkest Dungeon, where people have a profound respect for what you put out, which is really, I think, if you're going to do that, I have no desire to make a mediocre game. That's not interesting to me. That's not impressive to me. It's boring and lame. Like, I don't want to make one of those games. I want to make, like, an impressive, good quality game. That's what my desire is. So I think if I'm going to do it, I have to put in that level of effort and detail, and that's going to take a lot longer. So that's kind of my only fear with making a game. But kind of all the things I want to do are like that, and if I don't ever start on one of them, then it's just never going to go anywhere. I want to become a CPA, but, you know, I gotta start. I gotta go to school. And then I always have an excuse. I'm too busy with work. I've got too many other things to do, so... You know, it's stressful, man. I gotta figure out how to get things moving. Hopefully that's gonna happen in the next few years. I'm hoping this will take off in that time too, but... I'm not stressing it. YouTube is one of the things where I just sort of... Would I love to be more popular? Absolutely. Would I love to be moderately financially successful on here? Yeah, hell yeah. Am I going to sweat it if I'm not? Not really. It takes time and effort to get there. I think I'm getting a lot better at commentary and stuff like that. Well, I hope I am. Right now I'm kind of just being myself, and I kind of have to hope that people enjoy that kind of commentary, which is basically this, which is sort of like whatever's, just to kind of talk about whatever's on my mind and figure out, you know, kind of who I am. Well, I know who I am. I'm not trying to figure out who I am. I figured that out in the last 5 years or so. A lot of life experiences occurred that really helped me understand who I am. There's things I don't know about myself, but not this stuff. This stuff I know. So... But talking about, you know, things that make me who I am. And basically, like, verbally, to me, it's verbally daydreaming. That's all it is. Because I do this normally. As weird as that may be. This is basically how I'll just be driving, and this'll be the kind of stuff that's just going through my head. I'm just thinking, like... Oh, what are some of the weirder stuff that I've just thought about recently? I mean, lately I've been kind of mentally occupied with work and other stuff, so it'll be like, oh, I saw this Reddit thread that's interesting. But, like... One of my favorite things to do, and this is sort of like a power trip kind of thing, and it's, you know, a little bit of a fantasy, which is a little embarrassing, but hopefully, you know, you guys can probably relate to this. You know, say you go, oh, hey, you know, Iron Man just came out. Well, just like think, alright, well, what if I was Iron Man? What would I do differently? How would I use that? And that's, I don't know, it's interesting. It's stupid, but it's interesting. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm so much better. I'd be so much better at that character than they are. Either being it or writing it. That's not what I mean. It's just sort of like, oh, well, you know, just kind of daydreaming, putting yourself in that scenario and see what happens. It's a creative, I don't want to call it an exercise, it's just something that I've always done. I'd like read a book. Star Wars has been on my mind a lot lately. I really want to see episode 8. I'm not like super into Star Wars, but I'm definitely into it. So thinking about like, oh, this character is so stupid, if I was, oh, I could have, you know, that kind of thing is in my head. But then other times it's like much more off the wall than that, where it's like, thinking about concepts in physics, kind of. Even I'm not really that knowledgeable at physics, so but it's fun to kind of reason out in my head, like, well, how do I think that works? Like, how does that mechanism work in space or whatever? Yeah, we're short, but that's okay. It's not a problem. Oh, you know what? The reason we got another person was probably because we had someone die, wasn't it? No, that's fine. Or, like, another one would be ecology or biology, thinking like, oh, well, we could do this, and that would solve some of the issues we have. And again, some of it is like, well, okay, how would I handle, if I was in charge, how would I handle this issue or this other issue? You know, things like that on a government or work level, trying to figure out, all right, well, given what happened, how would we go about doing these different things? And I don't know. It's fun. I think it's interesting. I think it helps you grow as a person. Oh, nice. It is small. But yeah, I think it helps you sharpen your mind, I feel. It's a mental exercise, I guess. It's beneficial, in my opinion. I know that it's like... I don't know, is that nerdy? I think it's probably nerdy. But it's fun. I've always done that. I've always just thought about stuff. Just, you know, if I'm not doing anything, my mind just... And that's actually a problem. It's probably why I can't sleep very well. Is when I'm trying to fall asleep, I can't fall asleep quickly. I usually actually have to take melatonin to fall asleep. Or Benadryl, and that's largely because I mentally get to this point where I'm like, I just can't stop thinking about stuff. And sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it's this stuff. Sometimes it's like, oh shit, what game do I need to play? I need to do a new series. What am I gonna play? I don't know. Should I do GeoGuessr? Man, I don't know. Should I? Is that good? Is it boring? I think it is probably a little bit boring, but it's also kind of like accessible for a lot of people to maybe see that, and I don't know. I've heard about teachers who would use GeoGuessr LPs as like classroom material, which is really, really cool. I love that. It exposes kids to, hopefully if you find a good person to do them. I think Sinvicta was one of the people, and that's really cool. I think Sinvicta is a great guy. He just seems like a good dude. Though he was a dick in Civ 6. In the series with all the NLSS guys, the second one where they had NL in it. He was a total dick, and for those of you who have no idea what I was talking about, basically there was a player, Northern Lion, who was dramatic. He was not very good at the game, so he was way behind in tech and everything, and there was wars going on, so he had massed his troops on Sinvicta's border as a defensive effort, basically, and it's like, just to be clear, we're talking about like pikemen versus riflemen. On Sinvicta had like riflemen and tanks and shit. And Sinvicta took it as an act of war and kicked his ass. Which was sort of like, well, I mean, yeah, but what was he gonna do? Like, he wasn't gonna attack you. He had no way. Like, there was no way he was ever gonna make any progress there, so why attack him? And NL wouldn't let him live it down. So that was funny, but I forgot why I brought that up. Anyway, you can probably get what I mean about just kind of going all over the place, and that's why I'm a little bit... I wouldn't say I'm scatterbrained, but maybe manic is the right word. Just kind of go all over the place a bit. But it helps. I think that's really helped me in work, like managing chaotic situations. It really helps, because I'm used to it, you know? But, well... Yeah, it's... And that, actually, another thing I would think about is everyone, and I was just about to say it, everyone's different, so I'm kind of curious, like, well, this is how I work. I'm curious how other people work. I got no idea how other people work, and it's very interesting to me to try and figure out how. Because, you know, we're all different. And maybe there's things that I do that are inefficient. I could do it better if I did it the way someone else does it. And I think I'm pretty efficient within the way I work. I could overhaul the way I work completely and be more efficient, but I don't know. I like who I am. I'm pretty happy with who I am and the way I work, so... There's things I want to change for sure, but like more tweaking than changing. I'm pretty happy with my overall identity as a person, so... Yeah, anyway, that was probably a weird tangent for like the whole episode there. But yeah, let me know in this episode if you're still watching. I haven't driven you away with all that weird talk. Let me know how the video looks. I'm hoping it looks better, but I really don't know if it does. I'm not really sure how this is going to work out. I basically upped the bitrate like to a ridiculous degree. Like almost, not 10 times, but getting up there for sure. So I'm curious if, I'm sure it'll take longer to upload because bitrate will obviously increase the file size, but they're pretty quick anyway. I don't know that I care. So, yeah, we'll see. Bandwidth isn't an issue, thankfully. They haven't implemented those stupid frickin' bandwidth caps over here yet. I'm sure they're gonna, which is gonna be... Well, I'll be livid about it when it happens, but... It's gotta happen, right? I mean, no, like, whatever your political leanings are, if Trump is president, we're gonna get bandwidth caps. He is very anti-consumer. It's one thing to say pro-business, but it's another thing to be more honest about it and say anti-consumer. And he is absolutely anti-consumer. Which means that we are gonna get bandwidth caps, and, you know, things that are not net neutrality. What is the opposite of net neutrality? Bias? I don't know. Anyway, getting charged for shit that you shouldn't be getting charged for. And basically seeing certain businesses get driven out of business because they have to, or they're competing against a free alternative or a cheaper, inherently cheaper alternative because no one has to pay for traffic to the other alternative. So I'm not going to open that can of worms here. Maybe another episode. It's a fun topic. I'm really interested in it and something that I'm relatively passionate about. So, but now's not the time. Especially because this episode is okay, that was almost good, but I fucked it up. What I was going to say was, especially because this episode is at its conclusion. So, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us for the next episode as well. Take care.